Narayana. Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. Imagine you can do whatever you wanted to do, whenever you wanted to do it. So what are you all thinking about right now? Sleeping more, eating more, insulting others more. That's what our imagination defines as freedom, isn't it? If you ask a child what freedom is, they'll say that I can eat cereal all day, or I can just play video games. That's freedom to them, correct? All the parents look miserable right now. But if you think about this more carefully, to do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it, will only lead to selfishness, isn't it? The focus will not be we, the focus will be me. Our shastras, in English we call them scriptures, and the best way to relate to shastra and scripture is constitution, map, handbook, teaches us 4 facets of dharma, 4 facets of being religious. So please note these and check them off for yourself. Tapa. 1 is following dharma. 1 is religious if they're practicing discipline. Number 2, shaucha. Shaucha is clarity. Clarity about who I am. Clarity about what I'm supposed to be doing. Clarity of my life. Number 3 is daya. And daya is kindness. To be kind because that's who you are, not to be kind because you want it back. Kindness. And finally, satya. That's the 4th facet. Satya is honesty. Honesty about one's beauty, honesty about one's ugliness. And why I'm using these terms. In Atlanta, we just completed our Understanding Marriage retreat. And what I was sharing with everyone is that our spouse really brings out the beauty in us and the ugliness in us also. And that's required to see where we can grow. So the 4th is satya, or honesty. When creation began, which we call Satya Yuga, all 4 facets of dharma were strong. And as creation aged, our importance towards these facets kicked into atrophy. And today, there is no tapa, no shaucha, no daya, and there's only little satya. And we know this because we're in Sat Sangha. Through this community, through this course, we are giving more and more and more focus on that Sat. So Satya will become strong again. And when Satya is strong, then Daya will become strong. Then Shaucha will become strong. Then Tapa will become strong. That's the impact of your community, of our course. Vedanta and Bhagavata. And many of you are joining for the first time. When I say Bhagavata, immediately what comes to your mind? Lord Krishna. Pretty unanimous over here. I think prior to this course, people would have thought about songs, right? These are songs in Bhagavata, or Bhagavata is a story. True? It's a large book with a lot of overlapping, confusing stories. It's like Lord of the Rings. It's like Harry Potter. That's what our notions are of Bhagavata. But the actual meaning of this word Bhagavata is belonging to Bhagavan. Belonging to God is what the word Bhagavata means. And we all know that poetically, that we're all sons and daughters of God. Only through approaching Bhagavata with Vedanta. Vedanta is that deeper science, the knowledge of what's inside this map, inside of me, do I start to have faith that I belong to Bhagavan. Then there can't be a focus on me. There's a focus on we. There's a focus on he. And I'll give you a scriptural example of this and then a visualization. When Prince Arjuna had left Bhagavan Krishna, because Bhagavan Krishna had left the world, he was returning back to Yudhishthira. And on the way, a small group of thieves beat up Prince Arjuna and took all of his stuff. And when Prince Arjuna finally arrived to be with Yudhishthira, Yudhishthira said, "What happened? Here you are, Prince Arjuna, charioteer Bhagavan Krishna, you rule Mahabharata. What happened to you?" And Prince Arjuna shares that I got mugged by a small group of thieves. But what I really realized is that all of my prowess, all of my strength was Bhagavan Krishna's. When he left, everything about me left also. That's Bhagavata, belonging to God. And a visualization for all of us. Imagine every person you see, starting with the people around you. And then extend this to animals, to plants, to stones. Each entity is a cell. We are all cells in the body that is God. And all cells have to work together. And when cells don't work together, when one cell dominates another cell, what do we call that? Cancer. Belonging to God, I know that I'm a cell and you're a cell, and we have to support each other. Red blood cells, white blood cells. Vedanta and Bhagavata, we began studying the Bhagavata Mahatmya. And I'm going to share a prayer with all of you from this. Please try to locate this prayer, to remember this prayer. Satchidananda Rupaya Vishvotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. And in the Bhagavata Mahatmya, this prayer shares the only way we will stop burning, this tapa, is through feeling that we belong to Bhagavan Krishna. In the Bhagavata Mahatmya, we were introduced to Bhakti and her two sons. Do you remember what the names of those sons were? Viveka and Vairagya. So different words for the same presence. That Bhakti was young and vibrant, and Viveka and Vairagya were dull and old. And at that time, we were introduced to the idea of a Bhagavata Saptaha. That if one is immersed in Bhagavatam for a week, then one can become vibrant. One can come to life again. And Bhakti is exposed to this Bhagavata Saptaha. And her sons become lovely like her. Later on in the Mahatmya, we were introduced to Dundukari. Do you all remember Dundukari? Our kids are Dundukari. Some of our kids sometimes are Dundukari. So Dundukari was this really rough personality. He was a rough boy. And through listening to the Bhagavata Saptaha, he became all of the words I just used: tapa, shaucha, daya, satya, and he was freed. He remembered that he belonged to Bhagwan, and he became someone that is worshipped, all through being immersed in Bhagavata. The Mahatmya is like an opening prayer. And then one gets to Bhagavatam proper. So here I'm going to chant the first 2 shlokas of Bhagavatam, which again I ask you to locate, to memorize. Janmadyasya yatonvayaditarataschaarteshvabhignaswarat tene brahma hridaya adi kavaye muhyanti yat surayaha tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. The second shloka. Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Vaparerishwaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudya Tetra Kritibi Shushrushubi Statchanat. In a very simple way, this first shloka shares that Bhagavatam, the message of Bhagavatam is Satyam Param Dhimahi. That one should be contemplating, one should be living for Satya. And I described how that's the last leg of Dharma, and that we have to keep on strengthening that. So how to do that? In the second shloka, what is described is Dharma. Fulfill your responsibilities cheerfully, in a dedicated way, and more Satya will be brought to our lives. The first skanda of Bhagavatam is known as the Adhikari skanda, where the focal point is who is the student, who is eligible for Bhagavatam. In this skanda, we were introduced to Rishi Shaunaka, who is really our ideal. And he's speaking to Rishi Ugrashavas, often known as Suta. And he asks him 6 questions. I know you remember those 6 questions. I'll remind you of them. Question number 1. And put yourself in this circumstance. If you met someone who knows everything, what would you ask them? Should I invest in Google or Apple? Here are the 6 questions. What is the greatest goodness for all? Question 2. What is the purpose of avatara? Number 3. What is the performance of avatara? Number 4. What is the passings of avatara? So passings here means stories, further details. Number 5. What is the play of Bhagwan Krishna? So yes, we're happy with all of the avatars, but really, give us more about Bhagwan Krishna. And finally, number 6, what is Dharma's home? That we know Bhagwan Krishna left creation. Where did his essence go? So these questions are asked by Rishi Shaunaka. Really, these are questions we're asking. And in the first skanda, all of the Mahabharata is reviewed. So a whole 100,000 shlokas are reviewed in the first chapter. from really the war we're exposed to the birth of Raja Parikshita. Because we know Dhritarashtra as king, Yudhishthira as king, but finally it was Parikshita who was the king. The second skanda is known as the sadhana skanda. If one is an adhikari, if one is sincere, then naturally they should be engaged in sadhana. So what is that sadhana? And the fact that I'm speaking it and you're listening to it shows that we are adhikaris. If you weren't in this class right now, in this course, you wouldn't be an adhikari, but you are. So as many doubts you have in your head or your heart that, I don't know about Bhagavata and if I'm ready for this, you are. And to follow the sadhana that is highlighted in the second skanda, Raja Parikshita is now told that he's going to die in a week. And his question is, what should a dying man do? But really, what should we be doing with our lives? This summer, I was thinking lots about this question. If you're the greatest leader, and you're told that this enemy is going to kill you, what would you do? You would go and kill that enemy, correct? Before they can kill you, you kill them. Isn't that fascinating that Raja Parikshita had full access to having Takshika killed, but he never ever thought about having Takshika killed. He knew that, if I can go to Bhagavad Gita, stane, all is, as all is, Bhagavan is the one who's facilitating all of this. So what should all of us be doing? And the answer given to him by Rishi Shuka is, you should be contemplating. And if you don't know how to contemplate, then learn how to contemplate. Prepare yourself for contemplation. Isn't it lovely how our Tuesday class is called Meditation in Life? And our Sunday class is about contemplation. The Tuesday class prepares us for our Sunday class. In the second skanda, we were also exposed to the original Bhagavata. Do you remember what the name of the original Bhagavata is? Chatushloki Bhagavata. The Bhagavata we're studying is 18,000 verses, but the original is only 4. And I'm going to tell you what these 4 shlokas teach in 4 3-word English sentences. Please, please, please try to internalize this. Number 1, infinity is real. That was the first message. Second message, illusion is unreal. That's the second message. Third, creation is relative. Creation is relative. And number 4, introspection is extraction. Introspection is extraction. Bhagavan Narayana is teaching Bhagavan Brahma about Bhagavatam, and he's saying, infinity is real, there's only me, as in Bhagavan Narayana. Illusion is unreal. Anything that's not me is unreal. But if you still feel that there's something other than me, understand that it is relative, as in creation is relative. And how do you make that shift between the relative and absolute? Introspection. By introspecting, we extract the absolute from the relative. So this we focused on in the second skanda. The third skanda is known as Sarga. And Sarga in English means creation. And the main points that we explored in the third Sarga was Bhagavan Narayana wished to create. And so what came? Creation. In a micro level, he created all of our organs. In a macro level, he created all of our organs outside, such as my eye outside is the sun. My mind outside is the moon. My speech outside is fire. So created all organs, so in a micro way, and then in an outside way. What does Bhagavata mean? Belonging to Bhagwan. See everything micro and macro. And one more point here was, all that is inside and outside, he gave an organizer to this too. There's a Devata that makes sure that this is all organized, right? I play soccer on Tuesday nights. And my teammates, my cousin is on the team also. And so I was sharing with them that he's getting married next year, here actually, and that I'm going to be the pujari for the marriage. I'm actually going to facilitate the ceremony. So then my teammates they're all going to be invited because they're friends with my cousin. So they're all interested, and they said, in Hinduism, you have a lot of gods, don't you? So I said, a whole lot of gods. We have 330 million gods. So that blew their mind for a little while. And then they asked, why? Why do you have so many gods? And I shared with them, that's how many facets to creation there is, isn't there? There's oceans and rivers and lakes and rain and clouds and all sorts of clouds. And all of this is organized by the ruler. So really Hinduism is a monotheistic polytheism. There is one presence that gets organized into many presences, okay? In a very specific way. What we last studied in the third sarga, I'm going to read it back to you. We had studied, and you can go back in the discourses for this. I'm just going to read it for you. Sasarjagrendata misram atata misramadikrit mahamoham cha tamaschagnana vrittayaha. In this shloka, Bhagwan Brahma is identifying that he creates all space and various units of space, all time and various units of time, and all matter and various units of matter. One special insight, swaraha sapta viharena, that the movement of Bhagwan Brahma or Bhagwan Narayana is where the sapta swaras came. I thought that to be so beautiful. When someone moves in a very elegant way, it's almost like their movements are creating music, no? Another time I'll tell you about Rumi. And Rumi had a school, and how he used to teach in his school was through music and movement. They would learn through poetry, and then they would have to dance to that poetry. Very much like what we're learning in Bhagavata. We also finished with Gasya Rupam Abhudveda Yat Kayam Abhichakshate Tabhyam Rupa Vibhagabhyam Mithunam Samapadyata. Bhagwan Brahma wanted to get help with creation, so he divided his body in two. And one portion became Manu, and the other portion became Shatarupa. Manu and Shatarupa. In other words, a man and a woman. Now this is important to us because who was Bhagwan Rama's parents? Manu and Shatarupa. We spent a long time studying Ramayana. If it weren't for Manu and Shatarupa, there would be no Bhagwan Rama, and our course. So this is exactly where we finished. So now I'm going to move forward just for a few minutes, and then we'll have our discussion, okay? I know there's people who are new, so I've given you a year's review in 15 minutes. You're welcome. Rishi Vidura is in a dialogue with Rishi Maitreya. And he's asking more and more questions about creation. And he says that for someone to be able to hear about creation, for someone to be able to be in satsang, that shows the fruition of long years of sadhana. He says someone who's goofing around or someone who's jumping from science to science to science, someone who's a jack of all trades would never have this opportunity. So I again share that Srimad Bhagavata itself is talking about how fortunate we are. And we should remember that. As Bhagavan Brahma is engaged in creation, he gets, what is a sattvic swear word we use? In English, it starts with B. But, and what's another one? Busy, right? So Bhagavan Brahma is busy that he doesn't realize that Earth, that Mother Earth is stolen and has sunk all the way to Rasatala. And when he becomes less busy, he realizes that Mother Earth is not there. And he doesn't know what to do. So he asks for help. And who's the only one who can help him? Bhagavan Narayana. And there's so much of practicality in this for all of us. You know, we get very busy and we forget that we're aging. We forget where our kids are. We forget purpose. And then we ask for help, but then we go to other busy people. And they only confuse us more. So he asks for help and Bhagavan Narayana comes. So a new shloka, just one brief shloka today. We're on the third skanda. Skanda means chapter. Or skanda means, no, but then what does canto, what does canto mean? Section. We'll call it a section. We're on the third section, chapter 13. And I'm reading the 19th shloka, the 19th verse, lines 1 and 2. Tasya vipashyata kastaha shanena kila bharata gajamatra pravridhe tad abhutam abhun mahat. And what is shared here is that when Bhagavan Brahma asks for help, something came out of his nose. Vyasa calls them boogers. Boogers or paku. I don't even know what paku means, but I think in Kannada or Telugu it means something in your nose. So something small came out of Bhagavan Brahma's nose. And it was kind of floating. You know, when things come out of our nose, they fall down. But this was just floating. And as he was looking at it more, it was in the shape of a boar, of a pig. And that small booger then grew to become a full boar. How many of you have ever seen a wild boar before? A boar in the wild? They're really big. They're not like little piglets you see on a farm. These are big animals. And soon enough, in a kshana, in a moment, it became as big as a gaja. Gaja means elephant, almost like a woolly mammoth, if you can think of dinosaurs. And then in another moment, it became as big as a mountain. So now if you can think of hiking or Mount Everest, this booger, now I can't stop saying that, has become a mountain. And this huge boar starts smelling everywhere, and has caught the scent of earth. And this earth is below the ocean. And so that mountain dives into the ocean and is tracing out earth and finds earth, and with its snout lifts earth up and puts it between its tusks. But who feels that they own the earth? Hiranyaksha. Hiranyaksha is there, and he's the Rakshasa. And so this Rakshasa and Varaha, they're fighting with each other, and finally Varaha, Bhagwan Varaha, is able to destroy Hiranyaksha and brings Bhudevi, brings our mother from drowning into the light. how this relates to us in a very Vedantic way is, do you know what Hiranyaksha means? What does Aksha mean? Eyes. And Hiranya? Gold. Someone's whose eyes are always on gold. So Indians, I think that's what is what's being shared here. Someone who feels prosperity is more important than peace will allow the world to suffer, will allow the environment to burn. True? Sounds like many corporations, doesn't it? Sounds like some of our lifestyles, our consumption-based lifestyles. We think of Hiranyaksha as this historical demon, but a lot of us have those tendencies also. Another thought here is, Bhagavan Vishnu is the creator, and he came as the created to help, correct? So now how do you know that the person next to you is not Bhagavan? Bhagavan came in the form of a boar, of a pig. Now you can isolate that I shouldn't be eating pigs, because that could be Bhagavan Vishnu, but really extrapolate. How do I know that you're not Bhagavan? How do I know that tree is not Bhagavan? How do I know this stage is not God? Because here the creator is showing that I am ready to come as the created. Our attitude with everyone will start to change. And this whole section ends with Tasmai Namaha Varaha Sukara, which means that Bhagavan Narayana is the cause and the effect. That's what we remember. We revere the one who's the cause and the effect. Bole Shri Bhagavan Varaha Ki Jai. We are introduced to one of our first avatars. And we only have 329 million and so on to go.